So I read this book hoping that it was going to cure my broken knee. It didn't. Spoiler, it didn't cure it, but I really loved the book anyway. The book is Born to Run by Christopher McDougall. So if you've known me for a long time, you will know that I used to run. I used to run a lot. In fact, I think I'm going to say I first started running not long after I had my daughter, which is many, many, many years ago, 20 plus years ago. So it was a long time ago that I started running. And I got up to a fairly sort of like decent, regular pace. I was probably like a 9 minute mile person. I mean, say run, jog, right? A jog, 9 minute mile sort of like pace. 3 to 4 times a week, and then maybe a longer run at weekends, and typically a 5 mile run as like a daily run, right? So I was consistent running for many, many, many years. Up to the point, so in 2007, so that's like, we're going back a long time. In that year, or maybe the year before, maybe it's 2006, I think I set a goal of like, I said I want to get to like half marathon level. I want to be able to run half marathons. Fast forward to a christening where I'd had like one or two too many glasses of Prosecco with a couple of friends. And we ended up saying, shall we run a marathon? Yeah, what? Let's run a marathon, right? So we committed to doing a marathon, and not just any marathon, New York Marathon. As I watch this, as I record this, I'm actually looking at a picture of the Brooklyn Bridge, which takes me back. That's so random. Anyway, so I ran a marathon in 2007, the New York Marathon. Amazing, high-fiving babies on the Verrazano Narrows Bridge and all of that sort of stuff. So I used to run a lot, but I did, even though I was running, I had an old ACL injury. If you know about ACL, anterior cruciate ligament, very common injury for women, especially women sports people. There's a lot of science about it for the female footballers, etc. So I had this old injury from playing netball years before. I mean, I don't even, it's painful to even think about those injuries, when they happen. And so I'd had this, I'd actually had ACL reconstruction, had various arthroscopies. So I'd had like various knee surgeries, ACL reconstruction, not very pleasant. Had ran a marathon, but my knees were starting to really creak. And, on top of like, do you know what? I'm bending my knee now, literally as I record, and it's clicking, which is not a good sign. But basically, on the back of like having all of that old ligament damage and all of that, I started to get really bad cartilage tear, so tearing the meniscus, the cartilage inside and on the outsides of the knee. And I used to get these horrible things called a bucket handle tear, where some of the cartilage used to flip up into the knee joint. It's the most painful thing ever. Anyway, all of that basically meant I couldn't run for a long time, especially after those sorts of injuries. Definitely couldn't run straight away. But when there's something like that you love, and I used to do a lot of processing when I run, like a lot of just thinking through problems and all of that. It was very, very frustrating to not be able to run. And so in 2018, we were getting ready to go on holiday. And as you know from like this series, I used to take a lot of physical books, and for me, holiday time is when I look for, I guess, a different type of reading, a story. I look more for story, more narrative is kind of like what I'm looking for around holiday time. And desperate to potentially be able to get back into running, I heard about this book. I probably found it on like Runner's World or something like that. I used to have subscriptions to these running magazines, because obviously when you're doing like marathon training and all of that, you kind of you get really into it, like all of the gels and the things and the equipment and all of that stuff, right? So I used to like subscribe to like Runner's World, and I think that's where I heard about this particular book. And also it's supposed to have just been a really good storybook. In fact, it's described as one of the greatest stories ever told, and it really is. Like, it's a fantastic story. So I thought, let me get this book, because it's probably going to be a good one, and it might actually cure my knee, because the person that wrote it, Christopher McDougall, who was a journalist, he had, I don't think it was a knee injury. I think it was foot and ankle. I think it was maybe some like a fascia plantitis. I can't. I'm definitely saying that wrong, but it's. I've been recording along. It's a long day. Plantar is that the name? Something like that. Anyway, plantar fasciitis. I'm going to say right. Anyway, so I think he had that and maybe some other injuries as well. And he had been told, yeah, you just need to like quit running. You know, you can't run, etc. And then he went on this journey discovering these barefoot runners in South America. You know, kind of he goes and finds the Tarahumara tribe and he's looking for, this character. It's fascinating. And then there's this really long race. It's about these ultra races, ultra marathon races, that literally go on through the night, 50, 60 meters, 50, 60 miles, whatever. Not your sort of just bog stand, 26 miles for a marathon. And it's just a fantastic story. The storytelling is fantastic. I mean, obviously he's a professional writer, so when you hear that it's described as one of the greatest stories ever written, I would have to agree with it. It is a phenomenal story, the way that it's written. It is supposedly grounded in real events. So some people are like, is it true? Is it not true? Because there are elements of it, especially when he talks about this particular character, who I won't give too much away, just in case you want to read it, right? But he talks about this particular character, and it's almost like sort of mythical, the way that he talks about this character. And so you're kind of thinking, is it true? Is it not true? But apparently it is. It's based on like true events and like ultra race culture and barefoot running philosophy and all of that, because the Tarahumara they would run in these very flat, almost like flat, like a leather sandal. It kind of sounded like a flip flop. I mean, can you imagine like doing a marathon in flip flops? Because I can't. Anyway, so yeah, it's supposedly grounded in real events and it's based around barefoot. So he was kind of going, I guess, to sort of like discover, what did the barefoot running look like? How could they run these long races? So he was looking at, what were they eating? They were eating like refried beans and things like that. It's really fascinating. Just him kind of almost like breaking down the science of running, but through this fantastic story, talking about the gait, how did they run? How upright were they? What was the length of their strides? All of that stuff. It's great, right? So I loved it. The only thing I would say is I bought it. I'm going to say, I think it was last summer. I bought the physical book again. I already had the physical book because I loved it so much as a story. I bought the physical book, gave it away in the declutter. There's a lot of that happens. Bought it again last year because I thought, oh, let me read that story, let me take it away. Picked it up. For some reason, I couldn't get back into it. I don't know whether it's just because I'd already read it once. I just don't know what it is. I just couldn't get back into it anyway. But the other thing is, so after reading it, I thought, okay, what are the things that I maybe can try to implement from this book to see whether I could get back to running with my old dodgy knee, right? That's the whole purpose of reading this story. I didn't go all the way to barefoot. I was like, no, I couldn't give up my cushioned, what was I running at the time? It would either have been New Balance that I was running in or Hoka's. Well, no, Hoka's is something I started wearing more recently. Probably New Balance, I want to say 747s or something like that. I don't know. But I love my cushioned plush trainers. So I was like, sorry, I'm not giving those up for barefoot. And actually, I think there's actually been quite a lot of criticism now about running in barefoot that maybe isn't great, as in like barefoot trainers. I don't mean just bare feet. I mean barefoot trainers. Anyway, so no, I didn't want to do the barefoot. I did think about my gait, my strides, my posture a lot more when I was running. And I tried a few of the things that he mentioned, and I still do now that I'm walking, because obviously now I walk, I don't run. I do still think about things like, being upright and, holding your head on straight and all of that. But here's the thing. Did it save my knee? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I think I tried to kind of get back into running a little bit, which I did. Even like during the pandemic, I tried to get back into running. No, it was not happening. I just don't think there's enough shock absorption in my knee. So no book and no amount of anything I think was going to save it. So that's it really. That's the story of my knee. I read this book, went through all of this stuff. The book was great, but it didn't save my knee. So what's my takeaway? Oh, first of all, as well, I've read a lot of biographies. I don't know why I'm talking about biographies in here because it maybe is a little bit biographical. But Walter Isaacson's Musk and also Jobs, I'm going to be going into in another video because that's like another form of story that I really love. So I will be talking about that in another video. And then I guess just to say, you know, sometimes the book that changes you isn't necessarily because you get a result. Maybe it's just because there's a really great story, right? So, rapid review, rating out of 5, absolutely. Well, I'd have to say a 4 out of 5, wouldn't I? Because as much as the audiobook was absolutely fantastic, I couldn't actually get into the physical book. So I'm maybe going to have to give it a 4 out of 5. My one-line verdict, fantastic story, an absolutely amazing story, especially to listen to. So I did it on audiobook and I absolutely loved it. Who should run it? Who should read it? Runners. Definitely a book for runners. I think if you're a runner, you will just absolutely love it as a story. Who shouldn't read it? I guess, you know, if you think it's going to cure your like running ailments and injuries, I'm not sure it is. I think maybe that's a bit of an overpromise. It's not a promise that he made, but I think it's an overpromise. Audiobook, physical book, or both. Obviously, I would have to say the audiobook because the physical book just didn't really, I don't know why, it just didn't grab it. But as a story to listen to, it was absolutely incredible. So that's it. I'd love to know what you think, whether you are a runner, whether you are a walker. Is there a particular book that's maybe helped you with your technique? Is there a book that you would recommend I try to help me with my meniscus tears and maybe, who knows, get back into running? That would be amazing, wouldn't it? Please do leave that in the comments if you've got that as a tip. And that is it. That is my take. Let me know yours.